Thanks for joining us here on AccuWeather Weekend. I'm Anna Azallion.
And I'm Melissa Constanzer. We've been covering some of the snowy scenes across some of the north central, the northeast, and of course the west is getting their share too.
Yeah, we have kind of coast-to-coast storms that we've been talking about over the last couple of days. Definitely getting a peek at winter.
Yes, and guess what? That cold air is going to be here to stay for the holiday week for some, so we'll be checking in on that as well. You can see those coast-to-coast storms, though, Anna was talking about. One in the west already pushing in. It's actually two separate systems working their way on through, and that's going to provide more moisture for what has already caused flooding throughout portions of the west.
Yeah, and over in the northeast, we're seeing this storm move out for a lot of the northeast today, but still going to see some of that lingering rain and even snow for especially New England.
Yeah, and those winds will be fierce in places like Washington. The numbers have come down less than 100,000 customers for the first time in days, unfortunately, because of that bomb cyclone. We talked about that earlier in the show. We did report 2 people died from that. Meanwhile, California also dealing with some power outages recently, getting more rain. So it's been a very active pattern. Let's break down what happened first before we show you the setup. Certainly a lot of rainfall through the Bay Area. This is San Francisco. All of the flooding reports, some of them in downtown, by the way, have created some huge problems there. Around Sacramento, we also had flooding reports, and there are river levels like the Russian River that we are concerned about. They are coming close to actually a record level. They're at 33.9, 34.5 or so is that record level. So we should say under that with the river forecast, but certainly following some hard times here with river flooding from all of the recent rain. By the way, the Bay Area picking up about 2 to 3 inches of rain. Some spots in California, more than 20 inches of rain as we've gone through the past 2 days. What's it all from? An atmospheric river that's worked its way in. And if you look, there's 2 storm systems kind of driving that river off the Pacific. And this is the river that's highlighted. It shifted south of the Bay Area. But you can see the spin. This one is a secondary low that's developed. This was the original bomb cyclone. It actually kind of is floating its way around that secondary low and will be pushing into the west coast as we go through time. The good news is it doesn't have as much wind as what it did earlier this week. And it also doesn't have as much precipitation. So while we still have highlights of that atmospheric river, and we will enhance it again a little Sunday, it's nothing like what we saw earlier this week. So that's something to keep in mind. Right now you can see a lot of the west covered with at least some rain and snow. You can also pick up some of that heavier rain, a little bit more enhancement from what is kind of an atmospheric river, but it's a much weaker one at that. So it's basically just increased moisture off the Pacific as we talk about this working its way on through tomorrow and into Monday and Tuesday, and it will keep things a little active yet again. So for the next couple of hours, you notice that lull coming through across the west, especially California. But look at what's setting up here. You can also see some more moisture coming in. This is going to start to enhance and intensify as that second. Well, of course, we are going through a holiday week, and let's face it, it's some of the busiest travel days of the year ahead, with millions of Americans expected to take to the roads and even the air for Thanksgiving. And where are the most popular places to go on Thanksgiving? Well, you head south, I guess you could say. Look at all the southern tier cities here. Florida taking the top 3 spots. Los Angeles coming in not far behind that. And you can see Florida, Hawaii also in the mix here. Georgia on the board, Nevada. We've got a lot of warm spots. New York, though, still holding on, still squeezing in as northern tier city. Of course, with travel this week, there will be some challenges. We're going to see a new pattern here unfold across the U.S. Jet stream takes a little bit of a dive to the south. This is our storm track, and with the cold air on the north, you can imagine that precipitation may not always be liquid. First up, though, for your Tuesday, becoming a very big travel day here as more and more people have off on Wednesday. You can see we will have our challenges throughout the west. That's as a storm system pushes its way on east. Meanwhile, there's still some lingering weather here across the northeast, mostly in the form of some remnant snow showers and rain showers. Then we get into Wednesday and we follow that storm system farther to the east, and it creates some trouble through the midsection of the nation. So from system just yet, but it is going to start to work its way east, and with that, we'll be talking about, yes, even the chance for snow for some as we head through Thanksgiving Day. Well, you may have all some great tips across the northern tier of the nation. Could be a great weekend to get those decorations out. Maybe you're not ready to light them yet or activate them, but at least put some of those harder ones to get up out, because it is going to be a dry, beautiful weekend here and fairly mild Saturday, keeping things fairly quiet here and bright. Minneapolis, 41 degrees, some sunshine trying to peak, and that's going to lead to some more trouble as we head through the overnight hours. Could be a little bit of freezing rain coming in. There's a storm system across Canada that will be sweeping through and creating some heavy snow just to the north of the border here. So we'll be looking for that to be on the move. But for most of the U.S., we miss out on this storm pattern and keep a quiet finish to the weekend across the north central tier of the nation. It is time now for your weekend outlook. And if you're in some mild cities, maybe you're not worried about any precipitation coming because, hey, how can you beat it? Sunshine out there for your Saturday and Sunday in Atlanta. We should be in the lower 60s this time of year, so Saturday feels like it should, but it's a warm close to the weekend as we hold on to the upper 60s on Sunday. Transitioning then to Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. And this is where we expect temperatures to be right around 50 degrees, so very warm Saturday for us. Then we'll start to get a little bit cooler as we transition into Sunday. Again, missing out on all that precipitation from storm systems that are really trekking their way towards Canada and not quite making it here. But like I pointed out, travel as we go through Wednesday, the busiest travel day of the year, will be more of a challenge.
Well, thanks for sticking with us here on AccuWeather Weekend. Thanksgiving is time for food and family, but well, for many of us, before we're doing any of that cooking, we're heading out on the roads or to the airport to get to our Thanksgiving destination. So here's a look at what to expect for those travel conditions. Now, this weekend is a good time to do any of that traveling, any kind of early birds getting out there, especially for the middle of the country. We're seeing milder conditions, warmer weather down in the south. But we do have those coast-to-coast storms on the East Coast and the West Coast that are still kind of at play here. So maybe the weekend's not the best chance for anyone that'll be in those areas. Now, as we look ahead to Tuesday, kind of the same story. A lot of green for the middle of the country. We're seeing the fair and poor conditions in the western half of the country and in the northeast, and even swinging down into part of the southeast there. Now, the most popular travel day of the year, Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. Anyone that is going to be traveling, especially through Colorado, Kansas, into parts of Oklahoma and Texas, even anywhere where you see that red, that's where you might want to think about adjusting your travel plans. If you can, maybe this weekend, Tuesday, even the day of Thanksgiving, if maybe it's a shorter trip, because that's where we're going to see that storm that's in the western half of the country right now. It's going to move east and we'll have some travel impacts for those areas. Now, also a few travel impacts in the northeastern part of the country. Thanksgiving Day itself, here's a look at what to expect. The whole eastern half of the country, we are seeing snow, rain. While some areas of the country are seeing some snow and are probably thinking about tires and chains and all of that right now, one area where you're not having to actively think about that as you're heading out on the roads is the north central U.S. We are seeing a dry pattern, not just for today, but into tomorrow as well. One kind of note though, take a look. We're seeing that next cold front already starting to move in with that much colder air behind it. And you can even see a little bit of snow here right off to the edge of the frame there from that storm out west that will be moving in. That I mentioned is going to have some impacts for more the south central, but the middle of the country as we head towards midweek. Now, you're getting a break, so maybe now is the time to